Alright, this video is about preparing your own photopolymer plates using Imagon HD or similar product. The first thing you're going to need is a place to strip the covering off of the light sensitive material. This is a roll of painter's tape, masking tape. It comes in various colors. This one happens to be red. Doesn't matter what color you use. Tear off about a 6 to 8 inch strip. Fold over each end and turn it over and attach it to the edge of a table just like this. You'll need 2 more pieces. The 2 extra pieces are for anchoring each end of the strip. Just like that. You will need some pieces of PETG plastic that are 0.020 inches thick. This material comes in various colors of plastic thin polymer covering that gets stripped off. It doesn't really matter what the color is. You may find that I had some blue. Now I'm using material that's covered in a clear covering. You may find one color easier to work with than another. I haven't really found any difference. This material does come with both flat and textured surfaces. You want the flat surface, of course, and you want the covering on both sides. As you get the material from your supplier, the covering will be dirty. You don't want to take the covering off and use this without washing it off first. So just rinse it off in a sink, just like this. This way you won't be introducing dirt into the process of preparing a plate. Alright, the next step in the process is attaching the photopolymer. This is actually a leftover piece of Z-acryl, which is apparently the same thing as Imagon HD but thinner. This product is no longer available, but for demonstration purposes I decided to use this up because we have the regular room lights on to which this material is sensitive. It won't get exposed right away, but maybe 15 to 30 minutes would start to expose it. What I'm showing you right now is just how to get off the inner covering layer. When you cut this material to size, it will be rolled up like this. It is always the inner layer that you want to remove. If you should happen to remove the outer layer by mistake somehow, just go ahead and use it. Don't worry about it. It makes no difference. To get the inner layer off, press a corner of the material against the tape you've prepared and pull sideways and up. The material will come right off that inner covering. Throw out the inner covering and you're ready to make the plate. Okay, here we have the photopolymer ready to attach to the plate. We've stripped off the inner covering. There's a piece of PETG plastic in this tray of room temperature tap water. The photopolymer will have a tendency to float, so you have to force it down gently with the balls of your fingers until you're right at the upper surface of the plastic. Raise the whole thing out of the water. You can position it. I'm using my thumbs to position this material. If you make a mistake, you can just resubmerge the whole thing, lift up the polymer again. If one corner or 2 or 3 stick, just gently lift them off, and you can repeat the process till it's located exactly where you want it. Just like this. Alright, the next step is to place the PETG plastic on a flat, smooth surface. This happens to be a piece of glass that I use for this and other processes. And use a squeegee. This is a speedball 6-inch 75 durameter hardness, bought from Dick Blick. Pretty much anything like this will probably work. The very first step is to use nothing but the weight of the squeegee. Run it from the middle to a corner, middle to a corner. Repeat, repeat. Just the weight of the squeegee. You're just holding it in the air so it doesn't fall. Next, put a little bit of pressure on it, corner to corner. Now, turn it around, and instead of dragging the edge outward, you're going to push the edge outward. This takes substantial pressure, and it's ready to be dried. All right, the next step in the process is to get the excess water off the plate. I use a paper towel, wipe from the center outwards. This is a folded bath towel underneath. Takes off the excess water from the underside at the same time you do the top side. Always go from the center outside. If you go from the outside in, you will pull off or run the risk of pulling off that thin outer covering that you don't want to take off yet. Remember, there's still one surface covering left on the material. Hair dryer on medium to high heat. Actually, when I have it on high, I use the cool button, which gives you more pressure but less warmth. Just run my hand over it to make sure there's no moisture left. And that's it. Lay it on a shelf in a dark place. Let it dry overnight. When your plate is dry the next morning, you should still have the thin covering material on the top of the photopolymer. We removed it from the underside. And you should also have the thin covering material on the back side of the PETG, thicker plastic material that's used to carry the photopolymer. The next step is to print the image onto the plate. Alright, actually I'm going to add a little extra to this video just in case at some point in the future you feel the need to put a double layer of photopolymer onto a plate. Remember, I said that this was actually Zeacryl, which is thinner than Imagon, so I'm going to make a double layer of Zeacryl here, effectively turning it into Imagon. You do not remove the top layer from the photopolymer the same way you take off the inner layer, because it too frequently results in pulling the photopolymer off the plate. Instead, use a pocket knife, pick at the corner just a little bit. Now this may or may not work effectively because I didn't actually let this plate sit overnight. So I'm probably going to have a little bit of trouble getting this off of here. It's generally very simple. And there, no, didn't come up. Okay, I'm going to turn off the video till I get that layer off, rather than force you to watch me fiddling with it. Okay, I've managed to get the top layer off. I had to fight with it a little bit. This Zeacryl is several years old, so it's a little stale and not nearly as cooperative as fresh material generally is. So now we're going to reinsert this into the water and put another layer on top of it. Okay, here we are again. I'm going to remove the inner layer from the material. The covering goes in the trash, and we're ready to create the second layer on the plate. Here we are with the plate back in the tray of water. We have our second layer of material. Do this exactly like you did the first layer, except that of course you want to roughly align it with the first layer. Exact alignment is irrelevant because the edges are going to disappear. Lift it off, position it, take it to the squeegee table. Alright, same process as with the first layer. What I didn't mention with the first layer is hold down one corner gently with your finger so that you don't drag it off the plate with the squeegee. Even though the first time you're just using the weight of the squeegee by itself and not applying any pressure. Once you've made this first pass with the weight of the squeegee, the photopolymer is not going anywhere. Then you may do the same routine again with pressure, and then reversing. Instead of dragging, you're pushing, heavy pressure from each side, and it's ready to dry. You notice some defects in this corner and in this corner. That's from me fighting with the covering to get it to come off when it hadn't dried overnight. Okay, ready to dry off the plate a second time now that it has 2 layers of photopolymer on it. Using a paper towel from the center outwards, get the excess off. Applying pressure, never from the outside in, always from the inside out. And the hair dryer. And it's ready to be set out to dry. Don't use a used hair dryer for this. Buy a new hair dryer for this purpose, otherwise you will blow hot hair onto your plate. And that's it. That plate is, after it's finished drying, will be ready to use.